Hey.
This is JJ and Alex.
I made a name for myself. I told you I won't be denied.
As you wrap up your day, it's time to get your fix of the teams you live for and the sports you love. This is JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome on in, everybody. Thanks for being with us on the program. Thanks for hanging out with us on a Friday, a news dump Friday, JJ. Isn't that what we call it in this business? I will say.
That's the way that I figured Kyle Whittingham would go out. I would expect no less. No press conference, no frills, no party, no balloons. Friday news dump.
Oh, there's party and balloons. Just none of us are invited.
That's fine.
That's okay. But
I can't believe.
But hey, PK, will you invite us, or at least tell us, take some pictures of the party? I don't know. I'm assuming he's going to get invited, right?
I'm sure.
Well, Kyle Whittingham, very specific about the wording, I think, of the presser that went out. Stepping down is the term. The long-tenured head coach of the University of Utah, legend, soon-to-be owner of the statue outside of Rice-Eccles Stadium. Whatever that's going to be, whatever that legacy is going to be, they made it official. He is going to be stepping down. Morgan Scalley will indeed step in as the coach in waiting. He will now be the head coach of Utah football. How are they handling the bowl game situation, JJ?
Kyle Whittingham's going to coach the bowl game.
Absolutely, because he's a grown-up. And
as our own Steve Bartle reported today that there was a team meeting today, and Kyle Whittingham stepped in and announced that he was stepping down, and he pointed to Morgan and says, after the bowl game, this is your coach.
That's crazy.
That's how he addressed the team, and that's how it went down. So
well,
it has finally happened.
It's the news.
End of an era.
It's the news we've all been waiting for, and it's the one that we were kind of anticipating at some point. I think in the next 10 days. I was actually thinking, you know what they're going to do? They'll wait till after the bowl game. Why not? Because who cares? You get your team ready for the bowl game. You coach them up. Well, I guess if you had to tell, if your team knew, then you have to tell everybody, right? Because you can't keep that. And maybe that was part of the deal. But the reality is that the legacy that Kyle Whittingham has had at the University of Utah is immeasurable, despite the fact that he has the things that are on the shelf that look like they look like the awards that an award-winning coach and a future Hall of Fame coach like Kyle Whittingham would have. And yet the guy who doesn't like a lot of fanfare in that sense stayed true to what he does, and that is he is definitely going to do it his way. He's going to step down, and then, of course, the speculation comes after that. He didn't say retire.
And Stuart Mandel of The Athletic mentioned that he's not retiring.
Yeah, I think the reason is, too, they had already built in, and this was public knowledge, too.
100%.
He's going to be working for the University of Utah.
Working for the program.
Yeah, he's going to be basically the best consultation, the consultant that you could get that Morgan Scalley could dip into at any given time. And he'll be probably a really big-time arrow in the quiver of the recruiting side of things, in the in bending Mark Harlan's ear about football stuff and where it should land. And so however that's going to look, that's what it's going to be.
As a consultant to Morgan Scalley.
I love it.
As they go through this transition.
And he said he's going to do it for free. Just kidding. Come on. Come on.
You can look it up. You can find out how much he's going to get paid for that.
It's seven figures, but it's just not the one he's doing now.
18 winning seasons in 21 years. It's such a remarkable run. We had a feeling, and we had known that this was imminent. We didn't know when it was going to take place, so it's not a shock that it's happening. It's a shock that the 21-year run is over, because you can't imagine Utah football without Kyle Whittingham at the head of it. You've seen what this program has done over the last 2 decades. And his first win was the Fiesta Bowl in 2004.
Yeah, not a bad way to start.
Think what this program has done. You win the Fiesta Bowl. And obviously his fingerprints were all over that, even though Urban Meyer was the head coach during that 2004 season.
And Urban Meyer even didn't he end up coaching in that game?
He did coach in the game.
Yeah.
Officially, Kyle Whittingham was the head coach at that time because Urban had left for Florida. And then you have 2008, which is an incredible, remarkable, sensational season that is going to be tough for any Utah team to duplicate in the future. And then you go through the Pac-12 transition, which was a challenge unlike anything that we've had to see here. and then obviously to win back-to-back Pac-12 championships. What a run for Kyle Whittingham. It's just crazy it's over, but 21 years, it's going to be tough to beat that run.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to get thoughts across the board from all the people we can get a hold of to talk about Kyle Whittingham and the legacy he's leaving and kind of some of the details that surround it and whether or not, the word stepping down implies something else because everybody else looks into that like he's available for the Oklahoma State job. No, that's already been taken up. But that's not really, I think, what the stepping down is, although we can see, who knows. Let's get to the cut right here, top of the program, and then we'll get to our Ute Insider for KSLSports.com, Steve Bartle. Let's jump right to it.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Trajan Wealth brings you this portion of the program. TRAJANwealth.com. That's Trajan Wealth for all your trusted local needs in retirement. And Steve Bartle, our Ute Insider for KSLSports.com, joining us right now. Quite a busy afternoon. Listen, isn't this just what you're looking for? A late afternoon, Friday drop of the news. You can't say we didn't all kind of predict this style of it, and we were all kind of hearing the rumblings. But Steve, now that it's done, where do we go from here when you talk about the legacy that Kyle Whittingham is leaving and then what the state of the Utah program is going forward?
Yeah, I think obviously, take some time. We're all gonna take some time to reflect back on the last 22 years of Kyle Whittingham at the helm of Utah football, and he's 21 years. He's meant everything to the football program. He's brought national notoriety and respect to Utah football, and it's interesting. Maybe the most telling thing of his impact on the University of Utah. You can drive up to campus now and you see buildings and apartment complexes and all types of things. President Randall has plans to continue to develop the University of Utah into more of an on-campus institution, and a lot of credit belongs to Kyle Whittingham and the football program for this evolution of the University of Utah. A lot of success that the football program has led to a lot of important developments for the university as a whole, right? Utah's success on the field led to an invitation to the Pac-12, which obviously brought a lot of connections and relationships with other prominent programs in the West Coast, in the West that really allowed Utah to flourish as a university and as an academic destination. And that's only continued. And so, Kyle Whittingham has done so much. We talk so much about, brand of football and culture and identity and all of those things. And those things are going to continue on with Morgan Scalley at the helm. But what Kyle Whittingham meant to the University of Utah is so much more than just wins and losses. He transformed the university as a whole and allowed it to evolve into what it's becoming now and what it's going through now. And again, a lot of that is due to Whittingham and what he did to lead this football program to the success that he did.
Do you have any insight on when he came to this conclusion that he was going to make this decision, and when and how did he deliver this to the team?
Yeah, from what I've gathered the last couple of weeks, it's kind of been back and forth. If you've been following along, it sounded like, when the season ended, it sounded like everything was pointing towards retirement. A lot of people continue to harp on the fact that they believe that he wanted to continue coaching. And I do think that Kyle wants to continue coaching, or that he wanted to. I still think he has that desire in him. But from what I've gathered, I think the decision came last night. It was finalized last night. And from what I've heard, he informed the team at practice today that, he was stepping down and that Morgan Scalley was going to be the next head coach of Utah football following the bowl game. So that's what I've heard. But the last couple of weeks, like I said, it's been back and forth. He's staying, he's going, he's retiring, he's leaving, he's staying. It's been all types of stuff. And I think that continued up until, things were finalized last night.
Steve, obviously your thoughts kind of go to the long time that we knew who the head coach was going to be at the university going forward. We knew Morgan Scalley was going to be the guy for a long, long time. I wonder what the things are. What would a culture of Morgan Scalley running this team be? Obviously, he's going to be affected a lot by what Kyle Whittingham does. I'm interested to see what he might do differently, but what does he bring to the table, not just being with the program a long time, but what are Utah fans going to get with Morgan Scalley at the head now officially at the University of Utah?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to learn about Morgan as he steps into this role, right? I think a lot of the culture and a lot of the brand of football, I think those things are going to continue on with Scalley. You know, the things that Whittingham instilled in this program, the toughness and all of that sort of stuff. I firmly believe that those are elements, distinguishing characteristics of the football program that Morgan wants to continue on at the helm. But I do know that, you know, Morgan wants to make his mark on the program, that he wants to potentially tweak some things and do some things differently, right? You know, I know that recruiting is going to be a major point of emphasis for him. My understanding is he wants to beef up a lot of the recruiting efforts of Utah football. And so I'm interested to see what that looks like and what that actually translates to. I know that he has his own thoughts on what an offense should look like. And I think, you know, this past season was a great season for Utah. And I think that relationship with Jason Beck will be pretty important. But I know that he understands that throwing the ball is pretty impactful in today's game. And it parlays into recruiting success. You know, he's out there traveling to places, talking to recruits. He knows, you know, what these recruits are paying attention to. And even something as simple as throwing the ball a little bit more could lead to changes on that front. But, you know, I think a lot of the defining characteristics of Utah football over the last 2 decades are things that Morgan's going to want to carry on, while certainly, you know, adding his own flavor to all of this as well.
If you look back on the legacy that Kyle Whittingham leaves, what is, as you look back on, I'm sure you're going to be writing about this. What are the things that stand out that he has accomplished that really stick out to you over this time that have left his mark on this program? Probably the most meaningful for fans that they'll always remember.
Yeah, I think, you know, for me, obviously it comes down to, you know, making the most of the resources he had available to him and turning Utah into a power conference contender, right? You know, the decade of football for Utah, as they made the transition to the Pac-12 and seeing the evolution of the program in those 10 years where, you know, it went from bottom of the Pac-12 to the top within those 10, 12 years. And a lot of that is due, frankly, to how stubborn Kyle Whittingham can be, right?
Yeah.
The things that he's stubborn about led to a lot of success, and his consistency and all of those things developed Utah into, you know, a conference title contender. And I think that is such a unique experience for fans to see a program, you know, climb the ranks like Utah did during that time. That's a unique experience to share with a program, to share with a coach. And so, you know, Morgan Scalley, I think, is absolutely the right man to lead Utah into this next era of college athletics and whatever it's going to end up being. But Kyle Whittingham, a lot of Utah fans are going to remember those 10 years, 10, 12, whatever, however many years it was in the Pac-12 really fondly, because we all witnessed a program scale, you know, the mountaintop and get to the top. And I think that's such a unique experience to see it built from ground level to a champion is just something that I think is going to resonate with a lot of fans for years to come.
It's one thing to be the most successful coach in the program's history. There's a lot of legacy there. He would definitely, you know, look at the guys who came before him and give them a lot of credit, and he should. I mean, there's no reason to I mean, you know, the reason that Utah was able to keep stepping up coach after coach and just keep getting better and better, that, you know, demands another legacy right in front of it. Even if it's a short one with Urban Meyer, it still made a massive mark on this program. And so when you look at the long tenure here, and I think that, let me see here. Did he end up, how many, is it 177 is the total, is that the total wins?
177.
177 in the career. 177, I've got it right here. 177 wins and 88 losses, okay? This is a guy who is not just going to go down as one of the best in Utah history. I think he's going to the Collegiate Hall of Fame, and you can't have a career like that without having something like that happen. But in the end, what are the things that now have to happen so that the program can get into 2025 and beyond, which is a wild era that I think there's going to be a part of Kyle Whittingham that he's not going to miss?
Yeah, I think obviously the big thing is just the continued evolution of Utah athletics, of college athletics, embracing what that is going to mean, right? With this new era, as things continue to trend more and more towards a professional model, when you're talking about a super conference and two super leagues or whatever it ends up being, when you're talking about collective bargaining becoming more and more of a prominent talking point in college athletics, with Utah taking on this private equity deal and what that means, I think you're going to need to have a coach that understands the demands and requirements now of being more than just a strong head coach, right? It's going to entail a lot of work beyond the practice field and beyond the facility now, to really make the next era, to really thrive in this next era, because a lot of this is going to come down to financial support and resources. And I think that is an element where Morgan Scalley, being younger and being able to connect with younger athletes and people of his age as well, I think that is something that Morgan can take the baton and really it's really why he's the right guy to lead Utah into this next era of college athletics, because he can be that guy that can get in front of people and have a great conversation, strike up a conversation, and just be more of a forward facing type of presence and personality.
I think the transition that has been planned here from Kyle Whittingham to Morgan Scalley is brilliant, and I think that it's going to allow for as much of a smooth transition as possible. So much respect for Morgan Scalley and what he's done, and he's ready for this situation. And I'm really curious to see what this program looks like under his watch. I'm sure there's a lot of things that won't change, but there are some things that will. But obviously, he's got to make some decisions now that he's going to be the head coach about staffing. Obviously, there's a defensive coordinator position open, Steve, and I'm sure you're going to be all over that.
I mean, it made it sound like he's going to be applying for it. Hey, there's a defensive coordinator.
Well,
position
no. There's plenty of great candidates for that, and so Morgan's got some big decisions coming up. What are some of those decisions, and how much of the staff do you think is going to be retained? What are some of the immediate impact of Morgan taking over going to be in January?
Yeah, I wish I had, the crystal ball to provide some predictions on that, but certainly, starting with the role that he's stepping out of, and that defensive coordinator spot is going to be one that he needs to address early on. And, he's got a staff that are fully bought into, him as the head coach. And he's got, 4 guys in Shaw, Ellis, Powell, and Swan that all have the type of credentials that are worthy of being promoted to defensive coordinator. I know that Swan is, he has experience as a defensive coordinator. He's got an extensive background, at Weber State, where he was involved pretty heavily in game planning. I would look at him as the slight favorite in that race among those 4. But again, all 4 of those guys have the sort of resume and credentials that, if Morgan decides to name any one of them defensive coordinator, Utah fans will feel plenty optimistic about what they'll be able to do in that role. So I think, Scalley's got a good good situation on a good problem on his hands there with that defensive coordinator position. And then, beyond that, I'm not too sure. With the rest of the staff, like I mentioned, I know that Jason Beck and him have a pretty good relationship, and the offensive staff, I know this group is really well connected, and so I'll be curious to learn more about that over the next couple of weeks. But the thing that I do know is like I mentioned earlier, I know that recruiting is going to be a major point of emphasis for Scally. It's an area that he wants to really beef up, and so I think that could lead to some changes there, but I don't know anything beyond that. So we'll learn about those things over the next coming weeks. I don't know of anything imminent beyond the choice that he'll have to make at defensive coordinator.
Recruiting outside of the program and also recruiting within the program, as they've been successful recently with the locking down Bird Ficklin. How important was that, and what can we expect internally, Steve, now that business has been settled? Obviously, knowing who your quarterbacks are going to be during this transition is massive.
Yeah, it's huge, right? And that's kind of what this month is all about. This month is all about figuring out, getting a better idea of what your next season's roster is going to look like. So, they're having conversations with guys pretty regularly, who's in, who's out. We've seen, a handful of players, mostly guys that have that served as depth this season, deep depth, right? Scout team guys, even. We've seen a lot of announcements on that front of guys entering the portal. But to get Bird locked in, I think is really significant, because not only do you get a young, promising signal caller, you're hanging on to him, but all indications point towards Devin Dampier returning to the program in 2026 as well. So you get to hang on to your two quarterbacks, where many people thought that was not going to be the case, that Utah was going to have to make a tough choice between one or the other. And it seems like all indications point towards both returning in 2026. That really gives Utah a tremendous starting point in 2026. And it also gives them a huge leg up in 2027 because Bird Ficklin is obviously being viewed as the successor to Dampier when his eligibility runs out after next season. So Utah is feeling really good about that quarterback room, and the rest of this month is going to be about figuring out who are going to be the guys around him and what they need to address in the transfer portal when that opens up next month.
Real quick, Steve. Thanks for being available, first of all, because it's just, I know you guys are going through it.
Yeah.
You're trying to get the digital stuff going. You're also trying to put some articles online, I'm assuming, and just getting at all the angles. And so we appreciate you joining us for a little bit. It wasn't Pete Thamel, was it? Yeah, it was Pete Thamel who tweeted out.
Oh, Stuart Mandel
tweeted out, well, he's not retiring. He's stepping down. And sources say there could be, it was some reference to that there may be opportunities out there.
Could seek other opportunities. In your mind, do you look at that and go, that's absolute garbage, or maybe?
No, I think there is something to that. I think Kai Whittingham has not fully come to grips with retirement just yet. I think there is still that desire within him to keep coaching. I still think that's something that he's feeling, and maybe eventually he comes to terms with what retirement is actually going to be. But I think as of right now, I think he made the decision that he felt was best, which was stepping down at the very least to allow Morgan to take control as head coach. But I think he's still coming to grips with actually being a retired person. And I think he still has that desire. I think success this season really helped to kind of refuel the batteries a little bit for him. And I think there is still a little bit of desire for him to continue coaching. So I'm curious to see what that could lead to. Maybe it's just a reference to him accepting that advisory role. But there is certainly at least a little part that I've heard that he still wants to continue coaching.
Not that there are any programs that are like this, but listen, if there was anybody in shambles out there, maybe with a huge program in shambles currently, Maybe there's a possibility. I don't know. All right, Steve.
Someone to come clean up that mess?
Yeah. Hey, listen, we'll speculate on that another day. We'll celebrate the career of Kyle Whittingham the rest of the time and try to figure out what else is there. Steve, thanks for hanging out with us so long, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, fellas.
Thanks, Steve.
Absolutely.
Great work.
Steve Bartle, Ute Insider, KSLSports.com. Go over to KSLSports.com. You can read up on all the stuff that all of our guys are diving into, of course, because what better way to spend a Friday afternoon than combing through all of the whatnot of Kyle Whittingham's career. We knew it was coming, but Kyle Whittingham stepping down as the Utah head coach. Morgan Scalley enters as the head coach at the University of Utah. Although that announcement hasn't officially been made, I'm sure we'll get the impending press conference sometime during January. So
that was always the plan.
Yeah, look, and you just have to figure out.
I mean, the boss said today he's your new boss after the bowl game.
Right,
So
I get it.
That decision has clearly been made.
And when the school has that first press conference, the thing we do know about Morgan, exactly what Steve said, tons of energy and excitement and front-facing personality on that guy. So
I'm very interested to see what that new energy brings to this program with the same culture. It's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, or if he tightens up those lips. We'll see. All right, taking a break here. We'll come back. We got more to go around the corner. We're chatting all things about Kyle Whittingham's, stepping down. Don't call it retirement.
No.
Don't call it a retirement. We'll come back. Christian Cox. He played for Kyle Whittingham. Spent some time with the coach. We're going to talk to him, and we're going to talk about what the legacy of Kyle Whittingham is for guys who were inside that program for a time as well. Stay with us, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing.
When TV and radio collide.
Love it.
Wow. This is what you get. You're listening to JJ and Alex.
Don't touch that thing!
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, everybody, into what has become a very busy Friday afternoon version of the JJ and Alex program. And it's weird because we only have short time today because, we're anticipating the Jazz tipping off tonight at 6 o'clock right here on this radio
Pre-game
dial.
show starts at 5. We'll take you right up there with this story.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's just I was telling Alex Napolis, our producer, man, this is kind of a bummer of a day to only have 2/3 of a show because you just want to dive in. You want everybody to be able to honor their old coach or to speak to the guy that was their employer or to talk about the guy that has meant so much to this program at the University of Utah. But it's a shortened show today, and we're going to have, of course, like we said, one of those very people on the program right now. He's joining us over the telephone. We already got to chat once this week at the Player of the Week Awards here at Broadcast House, and Christian Cox, former defensive great at the University of Utah, joins us on the program. What's up, Christian? Thanks for hanging out this week, man.
Hey, Alex. Hey, JJ.
What is up?
Good to hear you guys' lovely voices. Very
nice.
Strange day. Let's call it that, what it is.
Yeah. Strange day is an interesting way to put it because everybody was waiting for this moment to be able to happen, or not to be able to happen, but we were anticipating something like this. We were just wondering if it was going to be 26, 27, or maybe 28. But I guess is the timing when you see that and you go, oh, it really is happening. What were your initial thoughts as soon as they said he was stepping down?
I was kind of surprised. I think we hadn't heard anything for a while, and obviously there's some things going on as you look at the letter that he wrote. And again, he's stepping down or retiring. I think my real feelings, and I'm it's mixed, I'm sure, across the fan base, is just sad, really. And I understand that, all good books have to come to an end. And I was hopeful there was just one. I only wanted one more chapter. I wanted 2026. And that's a selfish ask, and it just felt like with the roster returning, and I understand there's pressure with, Morgan deserves his time in the sun, and, there's a lot of movement in the college space with coaches and getting paid a grundle of money because they deserve it. And Kyle is up there with the legends of, the greatest coaches to come out of the state. You look at the Ron McBrides, the Urban Meyers, the Lavelle Edwards type coaches, and what you do in a football career to stay somewhere as consistent for 21 years and guiding them from a WAC to the Mountain West to the Pac-12 to the Big 12. And obviously last season wasn't what anyone wanted, and he came back and was just right there. And I think that's the tough part is Kyle's a deep, deep competitor and took this university forward into the future, and you knew it would end, or you knew it would come to a close. And I think the abruptness, and there's no good time to leave your employer or move on and close the book. But I think just the way it is today, and going to the Vegas Bowl and playing Nebraska, and it just kind of stinks. And it's maybe purposeful that it's on a Friday so people can't talk a lot about it.
You don't think that's a
100%.
coincidence?
100%.
On a 2 o'clock or 2, like East Coast is 4 p.m. And
Christian, you spend enough time in this business to know what a Friday news dump is, and that's what this is.
I guess, yeah, sure. But it's, I don't know. I'm sad. I think anyone else is, and I could go on for, hours on, what he's meant to me, and not just me, but so many other people that he's just impacted. And I think I wanted just one more book, one more chapter. And it is interesting with the timing of $500 million in private equity money.
Yeah.
That was earlier this week to ending of why now. And there's obviously conversations we don't know that are having behind closed doors. And there's a lot of things that I'm privy to that went on during the transition of the Pac-12 that no fan knows. And it's what's complicated about this college football business is there's a lot of moving parts and politics and moving things around. And I just think Kyle did it the right way. And he built an organization from basically nearly scratch. He took fundamental parts, but he changed our state. He changed this public university. And the data point I'd point everyone back to is go look what happened at the University of Tennessee once Philip Fulmer left after they won a national championship. And that is what I don't want to have happen. And that's always been my fear, is when the greats leave, there's a sag. And I'm not saying this will sag for Morgan, but it's always challenging. Go look at post-Lavelle. There's just always a challenge. And I think it's just a time to honor what he did and how consistent, and the coaches he rose up through him, and the coaches that were born out of him, the coaching tree. And I just bittersweet on a Friday, but I understand the business. But I don't like this phrase. Step down isn't I'm retiring. I'm sailing off into the sunset. I'm out of here. I'm done. I love the man. He's tough as nails, diehard competitor, changed my life. And I'm going to be a little sad over the weekend, and that's okay.
Well, you bring up a great point that you can't take what he has done for granted. Because he was there, Christian, we always just expected Utah to be great. We always expected Utah to be great on defense, and they'd figure it out on offense. The great years, they would have some guys on offense that made it go. Other years, they just figure out a way to win close games. But you always knew who Utah was, and you can't take that for granted. And now I know that Morgan comes from the same culture, but you cannot just take for granted that because Kyle is and this transition is going, that things are just going to be the way they always were. So just how incredible was it, the consistency that he was able to deliver, and how did he do it? Because you had a front row seat.
Yeah, listen, my wife talks about this all the time. There's something written above, a workout area in our house. It's like consistency equals success. There really is no secret for it. And I think everyone wants flash in the pan. And it's hard to make yourself do things you don't want to do. It's hard to show up to your 6:30 a.m. workout. It's tough to do that, not only just weeks at a time, but years at a time. And he did it for 20, 30, 40 years. And if there's one thing I got to witness, when I was there, I knew exactly what time he was up on the Stairmaster doing a crossword puzzle with a white towel over his shoulders as a player. And it was always right before his media stuff or right before we go hit the ground. And so when you talk about rhythm and life and being consistent at certain things, it's hard to do anything, consistently over and over, because it's just not sexy. It's not fun. But as I look at how he ran the program, and even when I transitioned, it was briefly, it was just a season in the NFL watching the Patriots organization. When I transitioned up and I looked around and I was in that organization, there wasn't a massive jump that I thought I would be walking into like a doctor's office, PhD, new level. It was like what Utah was doing in terms of structure and practice and what was required physically already prepared you for the NFL. And that's why you see so many guys that have transitioned up into the league, and a lot of, whether it's ex-players or ex-coaches who've moved up, it's because they grounded out at Utah, because the Utah way will synthesize the basically the weak out, because if you don't, you don't adapt and become stronger. And that's why, the Eric Weddles and the Paul Krugers and the Sean Smiths and the many other, the Jalen Johnsons, the many other great players that have come through the program. There's hundreds. The Luther Ellises of the world, it's because they got prepared as a young college kid through a difficult program. And that's why I think Utahns at heart, like true Utah fans and even BYU fans, even have respect for Kyle.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt.
Because of the execution and delivery over and over and over again. And I think that's what, not saying Morgan can't, and I'm not saying, and again, if you look at Morgan's contract, actually, he's the coach in waiting. He will be it. But it doesn't say, it still gives them the chance to go look around. They would be absolutely foolish to do that. This isn't Morgan's call, and this isn't head coach talking about the future with Morgan, but that is what folks don't understand is sans Kyle, you're going to miss a pillar, and leaders are the difference. Go look at every successful organization. And so the harsh reality of life is there's times and seasons, and there's change. And change is hard. It may work out fine, but that was probably one of the most consistent, stalwart man who everything he said he actually did. And as I've gotten older in life, there's just not a lot of people like that exist, that say the things and then do them. And he did it at a high level.
Well, we get to learn from Kyle Whittingham because of all the years that you were able to learn the stuff that you did, and you bring it to our shows and all the appearances that you've ever made. And so that's a huge part of it. And so we appreciate you dipping in, Christian, on your career as a player for Kyle, and also watching the whole thing unfold over the last 21 years. It's been really, really fun. So thanks for hanging out with us today, man. We appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks, Alex.
There you go.
Thanks, Christian.
Christian Cox. I mean, it's like someone passed away for Christian.
Yeah,
That was
You talk to former players, and I should also mention it's a tough day for a lot of these former players.
Yeah.
Eddie White passed away, former Utah running back, and I know that a lot of these guys, we reached out to some guys and they just couldn't do the show today because they're heartbroken about the loss of one of their former teammates.
Right, they got the news today.
Utah, and you can mock this or make fun of it if you don't love Utah all you want, but Utah really lives the motto that they are family. They do. And so you sense that with Christian today. It does feel that way. You're absolutely right.
Let's take a break. Before we do, I want to remind you, Hans and Scotty are going to be on Tuesday at My Hearing Centers in Sandy, 8941 South, 700 East. Next is going to join us David James, of course, DJ and PK in the mornings. He's covered a few Kyle Whittingham press conferences, games, etc. We'll get the full view picture from the media side that David James has been able to be a part of, and we appreciate him coming on for a second time today on the station. So stay with us, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest name.
You're locked into JJ and Alex. With the insight and analysis on the teams you can't live without. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Oh, nostalgic song on a Friday afternoon. Alex Napolis, our producer, tears streaming down his face. Just kidding. He has no soul. He breaks news. That's all he does.
It's not the end of the show. It's just the end of an era up on the hill.
There you go. Kyle Whittingham stepping down officially. The announcement made today by the University of Utah. The rest of all the dominoes that are going to fall after that, including the almost certain putting into place the coach in waiting, Morgan Scalley, that all comes later. We celebrate, of course, the career that Kyle Whittingham has, and of course we speculate on what it means if whether or not he is actually done or not. Somebody jumping in who knows quite a bit about this guy and has covered maybe more extensively than anybody in this market. He's David James, host of DJ and PK, of course. We were just looking at some of these old pictures, DJ, and I'm like, Kyle looks like a totally different guy now. I mean, you would 21 years later, but like Well, first, he still looks like Kyle Whittingham, but, man, he started this gig, and he's kind of young when he got going. What do you remember about him starting up when he was officially the head coach after Urban Meyer?
Well, I remember stuff about him starting up before that. It's been his goal for a long time. For a while, we were doing an hour of sports on Saturday night before we got an outdoor show. And the second half hour was college football, and we rotated an ex-Utah player and coach and an ex-BYU player and coach through. And the current coaches obviously could only do it after home games. They played a lot of day games in that era. And so I called Kyle to ask if he would do it, and he paused. He said, well, I'm interested, but I have to ask Mac. And I said, well, tell him you want to be a head coach when you grow up and you need to polish your media skills and you shouldn't stand in your way. And Kyle burst out laughing because that's exactly what he was thinking. He did not end up a head coach by accident. He aimed for it for a long time. The other memory I have is that I went up to a practice when you could go to practice and there was no fence and no windscreen and you could stand on the sideline. And furthermore, an assistant coach might talk to you while practice was going on.
Wow.
Unthinkable now. Those were the before times.
That'd be your last practice today.
And the coach who talked to me was Kyle. And it was 2004, and they were undefeated and rolling. And I'm standing on the sideline, and he is kneeling. And you guys have been up to practice. We were right where the practice field is now. We were on the east side facing west. And Urban was walking down the sideline on the other side of the field, right by the fence, right next to the cemetery. And Kyle, the play was off to my left, and Kyle was off to my left. And so they're going through whatever scrimmage and whatever practice, running their play 11v11 at that point. And Kyle, looking at it, but not out in the middle of the field, on the sideline, kind of crouched down, never turns his head to me and goes, hey, DJ, what do you hear about coaching jobs in the state of Utah? Is one going to be open? And I was like, no, all three are going to be open. I think you can get any of them, but I don't know. And he just kind of went, huh, and then didn't say anything. And of course, we famously know he went back and forth between Utah and BYU and ended up taking the Utes. So, I mean, those are some of the memories. And, I definitely thought about both those things today. I thought the thing today, and Stuart Mandel jumped all over this, and I suspect that Kyle took his call. I mean, Kyle's phone has got to be blowing up. And I texted Kyle, but I haven't heard anything back. But I'm sure his phone is blowing up. This was much anticipated. I heard Steve Bartle on about an hour ago, and he was talking about, the back and the forth and thought it was going to go. Listen, let's full transparency, guys. There were a lot of jokes made at a very high volume in the bullpen outside our studio last week about a Friday news dump. We all knew the contract and it could come, and Friday. And Kyle was like John Stockton. He wasn't going to want to do a lot, if any, in media. So it had Friday news dump written all over it. There was a lot of speculation about it yesterday. And I was on with Scotty G today, and he was down in Nephi, and he said, I don't know what you had at your lunch, but I had a better lunch. You may have had better food, but I had a better conversation.
No.
I was told, and you can go back and look, I said, the person I had lunch with said, it's going to happen this afternoon. I'm like, well, I don't want to get in front of that train because if Kyle changes his mind, everything changes, and you don't want to be wrong on a story like this. So just let Kyle do what he did. And the guy nodded and said, okay, but be ready this afternoon. Like, okay. And apparently the delay that we over this past week has been other people getting contracts signed. Assistant coaches, moving Morgan into place. I get not announcing everything at once. Give one person their moment in the spotlight, then wait, switch gears, let the next person have the moment in the spotlight. So I get not announcing a new head coach right now. But I was told there were contracts being negotiated as recently as yesterday. So whether that's for a new defensive coordinator or a new head coach or a new, whatever, there you go. And I thought Stuart Mandel, what he jumped on was that Kyle, and that statement from the U that was all seen on social media, the word retire is nowhere in there.
Yep, that's a great point.
Stepping down. And it's time. Here's another behind-the-scenes moment. So about 4 years ago, the previous TV station I worked at did a show that involved NIL when that was brand new. And so to go up and pitch the advertisers that they had to advertise with the station and do NIL, and the players would show up and get the NIL. And so the pitch to the advertisers so that Kyle could participate and say, this is why it's necessary. This is where college football is going, was done in the building. And Kyle would just go into the theater that's, you guys been in to do interviews, it seats like 120 people so you can get all the players in there if they need to get them all together for a team meeting. And we're in that theater, and Kyle would come down the aisle, and then he would pitch and would say, it's not long before the top 25 teams are going to be the top 25 teams in terms of NIL. Mm-hmm. Number 1, 2, and 3 are going to be number 1, 2, and 3, and right down the list, all the way through the top 25. I've heard him say that 20 times, and he says it with a passion and a ferocity. It's like, this is how it is. Don't argue with me. Argue with me about something else. Not this. Even 2-point conversion. Not this. And so this is going to be a tough time for Utah. There are schools with a lot of money. There's interesting. One of the things I've been told about NIL, and I hadn't really considered this, but the names of the building at BYU can be named after people, and they're not so much named after donors because the church pays for the buildings. Whereas a lot of public schools have to go to donors and get buildings built, and now you go back to the donors and you ask for more NIL, and you ask for it every year. It's exhausting. How much more are the Eccles and the Huntsmans and the Garfs? How much are they supposed to give? And it's those 3 at Utah, but, it's 3 boosters at every school across the country. How much more are they supposed to give? There's some schools that are in a tougher spot today than they were 10 years ago because the game has changed. So maybe it is time for him to step down, let someone else do it. I don't think, and maybe he will just go to Hawaii and we'll never hear from him again. Could be. I doubt it.
Yeah.
And it'll be really interesting to see what he does. There was a time that I talked to him that he wanted to coach in the NFL. Obviously, his dad did. That's fact, right? He's with the Raiders. And obviously, his son does. He's with the Chiefs and working for Andy Reid, and Kyle's tight with Andy. And they go back to see the kid, and he talks football with Andy every year. And so, and maybe there's something else. I mean, how many scouts and GMs have been through Utah over the years? Kyle probably has a relationship with just about everybody.
Yeah, Spagnuolo's he's struggling right now, right?
Well, and it could be anything from assistant coach to analyst to
consultant.
I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Right? Kyle's a great talent evaluator. If you put him in the front office, do something different. I think the fire still burns, but maybe it's time for a different challenge. And maybe the challenge is fundraise to you and make sure Morgan has the money he needs because, Morgan played for him, coached for him. Kyle doesn't want to see what he built, fall apart. I can tell you 100% Lavelle didn't, and it bothered Lavelle. And I talked to Lavelle right before Bronco was hired, and Lavelle just couldn't wait for that program to get back on his feet. He built it. He didn't want to see it fall apart. And I think most coaches who build a program feel that way. Lavelle did. I think Kyle does. And, probably on down the line to a bunch of other coaches in a bunch of other decades or centuries. So there you go. Yes, I think many things. I can't wait to see what Kyle does next. I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah, we're all going to be watching that. One more real quick for you, DJ. We have the pleasure of being around these coaches and athletes that are incredible and accomplish great things. And I love watching how they work and how they operate. And you shared some great behind-the-scenes stories about Kyle and you. What did you learn about him watching him operate that made him great?
Oh, easy. And this is such a cliche because everybody says he's the most competitive person I have ever met. Wants to beat him in cheer. But once Kyle was lamenting something that got away, and I'm like, Kyle, you don't have a lot to prove. Well, what does it matter? The Fiesta Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, you outkicked your coverage, and I'm looking at him, and like he was eating a sandwich at the time, and it looked like he was going to throw it up. What does it matter? What does it matter? I mean, he didn't yell at me, but the flash in his eyes, I'm like, wow, it burns real deep in this guy. It burns. And I mean, we all know people who are competitive and who have, I'm sure I'm in a game when I was younger me, I reacted poorly to something. You all have probably reacted poorly to something at some point in our teens or 20s. And, he was older and he learned how to control it. But the fact that he got them to the top of the Pac-12 and got them to 4 title games and won 2 of them, went to 2 Rose Bowls, that flash in his eyes, he was going to bleep and do it. Yeah. Don't tell me it doesn't matter. Yeah. I mean, he could have taken it as a compliment. Hey, thanks, DJ. I'm glad I've earned your respect with the way I've coached, the games I've won, and And it was like, no, the next mountain is there, and I'm climbing it.
Yeah.
Which is why when I see the word stepping down, I don't think that's an accident.
Right.
Bronco Mendenhall was on with us a couple weeks ago and talked about a book he read that really influenced him called The Second Mountain. And that coaches who get to that mountaintop in their 40s or 50s, what do you do for the rest of your life? And Kyle is 66 and apparently in good health, and what does he want to do? What does he want to accomplish? And that flash in his eyes, and I'm like, you don't have to win the Pac-12. We know you're a good coach. And then you get the flash in his eyes. I mean, he sets a goal. He wants it badly. He wants to compete to get to the goal. So it's just a question of what goal is he going to set next, and then it'll be fun to watch him try to accomplish it.
DJ, we appreciate it. Thanks for the stories. Yep. Thanks for the insights. As always, DJ and PK, of course, every day, Monday through Friday, right here on the KSL Sports Zone. Have a good weekend, man.
Thanks, DJ.
Talk to you.
There you go. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back before we do. It's a Win Ticket Wednesday coming up next Wednesday. If you go to KSLSports.com and check out what you can win, Youngblood Idols, the World Tour at the UCCU Center in Orem on May 18th of 2026. You can get those tickets at Live Nation today, or just listen all day long on Wednesday to win them. Stay right here with us. We've got more around the corner. Trevor Reilly is going to join us next on the program.
Can't wait for this.
Former Utah defensive end. He has thoughts on everything. I think this would be a fiery one for him as well. We'll dip in with Trevor Reilly. Coming up next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Your home for the best coverage of the Jazz, Utes, and Cougars is right here on The Zone. This is JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, everybody. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Kirry, Jeremiah Jensen joining you on a shortened show on a Friday. Of course, it's the day that we get the news that Kyle Whittingham is stepping down as the head coach at the University of Utah. And we're dipping in with former players, and we're getting to know some of it, those stories that they're telling of times that they spent with him, but also their thoughts on him stepping down as Utah's head coach as they move into a new era as somebody else being the head coach, likely, of course, to be the coach in waiting, at least in contract for now, Morgan Scalley. I say that like there's some sort of weird cliffhanger. It's on paper, but there's always something right out there that kind of makes you think about it. Let's kick off the program here, chatting with Trevor Reilly, former defensive end and linebacker at the University of Utah. And Trevor, first of all, thanks for joining us on the program. You wore the C on the chest for Coach Witt. Did you ever incur the wrath of your head coach at any point in your career? I think he's just choked up. That's the kind of guy he is.
We'll connect with Trevor.
We'll connect.
Sorry about that.
I did want to tell a quick story about Kyle.
Yeah.
So DJ was talking about the NIL stuff, and one thing that he brought up was when the NIL stuff hit, they announced it, and Pac-12 Media Day was the next day.
Yeah.
And we're all there doing the shows and stuff. And I remember going, oh, my goodness. And we were sitting there, and we're like, we can have these guys on our show. And during a break, we were just straight up asking Devin Lloyd and Britton Covey, hey, we can pay you. Just come on our show during the year.
Yeah.
Devin Lloyd was already talked to my agent, and Britton Covey was like, okay, yeah, we'll try to figure this out. We're talking money and stuff like that. Kyle Whittingham goes, well, I'm not even supposed to be around these conversations, so see you guys later. It was like he hated it. That was his thing. So Trevor Reilly, former defensive end and linebacker, one of the greats at the University of Utah. I was wondering, Trevor, if you ever got the wrong end of the business end of a yelling from Coach Witt.
So thanks for having me on. I apologize. My cheek hit the mute button, so I apologize about that.
You're good.
Okay. So here's what happened the first time and the last time. We'll give you my 2 times, okay? First time, Coach Witt, the grades come out after our first season. I redshirted. Wasn't happy about that, by the way. I was a 21-year-old freshman. Was not happy about redshirting, sitting behind a former quarterback cop named Chad Manis, who I love, by the way. I was not happy about that. I was like, man, I'm playing behind a cop. Gosh dang it. But anyways, Chad had a great year, and we won 10 games. It was the best thing for me, but I didn't do well in school. I think they started announcing GPAs, and Coach Rich is reading off the sheet. He reads 0.3. He stops. Says, Trevor, 0.3? Are you serious? In front of the whole team. I said, Coach, and so I went and he brought my mom in. My mom and I met with Coach Witt after my freshman first semester.
Oh, no.
And he said, listen, dude, you're going to be at Palomar College unless you can figure this thing out. I said, that's right, Coach. So he loaded up my schedule. He gave me 20 units. I passed all. That was the first time, right? He got me into shape. I was married 6 months later, and my whole life just went in the right way. The last time is my last game.
I picked off this quarterback. Everyone's heard this story. And I'm looking at the clock. There's no timeouts. There's like a minute 30. And so I chucked the ball in the end zone and then threw my helmet in the stands. And that was the last play I ever played as a Ute. But he wasn't happy about it. He started screaming at me on TV and said, "Coach, there's no timeouts left. Game's over." And I just kind of walked off, but that was the other time. Both pretty dramatic, but Coach Witt is my guy. I love him dearly. He changed my life. He gave me a gig when I was done playing. And, he's not a perfect guy. None of us are. You might hear some guys that might say, I'm kind of glad he's gone. I'm not one of those guys. I'm happy that he's making a decision on his own. I think he should still coach. I'd love to see him at Michigan, right? They could use him like a Bill O'Brien situation. But those are the times I took some heat from Witt as a player, man. It was fun.
I was there at the stadium when you did that at the end of the game. That was one hell of a way to go out, Trevor. That'll always be remembered.
Did you hit a kid with the helmet?
I hope not. There was no lawsuit, right? No lawsuit. We're good then. Everything's good.
Well, I know Kelly Sherritt was, sent some little minion up in the stands to go get the helmet. It was a crazy day though, because my daughter had beat cancer.
Yeah.
Okay, so I put her on my shoulders. We ran out of the tunnel for senior day, and then here's the best part. I get this nice little trading card gig, courtesy of the Athletes First, Justin Schulman, who's Kalani's agent. And they got a picture of me and my daughter with her on my shoulders for the trading card, dude. It was kind of just perfect deal. But Coach Witt, he was just a guy for me, man. He was like a father to me, man. He was like a father to me.
So with all that said,
he is like a father.
What are your emotions today, Trevor, when you heard the announcement? We knew that was imminent. I'm sure you had some communication and knew that this may be coming down the pipe. But now that it's official, what was your reaction when it came down?
Well, there's two things. Number one, I thought we all just witnessed him get squeezed out in front of our own eyes.
Wow.
Only for the fact that we don't have any NIL money. I think we're tied for last in the entire Big 12 for our salary cap this year. So I think behind the scenes, right, you have to start paying these guys. You can't even negotiate if your money's not right. So that was one thing, right, which could be. The second thing is that I don't know if he wants to retire, okay? I keep saying that because I don't know, man. I see he stepped down. If he does retire, I'm good. But anybody can coach this team with the right attitude. I think Coach Scally has the right attitude. Coach Mack had the right attitude. It takes a Utah certain type of guy, and I'm optimistic for that whole situation. I'm going to support Morgan 100%. He was my coach, too. Shoot, I used to get the game plan from Morgan. The guy's a genius. Worked with him. I just hope we can get him money. What I don't want to do is not get him any money, guys. We got about 16, 17 million. I think BYU is going to be over 30 this year.
Yeah.
So we're behind. They might poach all our players, man. So it's kind of bittersweet, right? I'm kind of on to the next now as far as we need to get money for Coach Scally. That's what I'm really concerned about.
The competition's real, and when you said, there might be some people who'll come up and say, "I'm glad he's gone." There may be players that might think that from over the years, but I think as soon as you said that, I thought there's going to be a ton of BYU fans who are glad he's gone. I mean, you talk about a guy who was a thorn in the side of pretty much any team that considered themselves a rival. He showed up for all the biggest games. He showed up for every big game. It just seemed like that they were all over it. He knew how to prepare you guys. What was his edge as a coach, Trevor, like that really got his guys to buy into what's a pretty difficult culture a lot of times to sell to these kids these days?
He was tough. The guy who trained him was a guy named Fred Mad Dog Whittingham, and I never got to meet the guy. But when I got to the league, I started asking around about this guy, and I started reading about him. He's a serious dude, man. He worked for Mr. Davis. He worked for the Rams, and he worked for BYU in Utah, played for Philly with Chuck Bednarik. And he was an orphan. All that juice, right? And Kyle was the oldest. So I think Kyle, his mother's a saint, right? Nancy, she's fantastic. And then you have crazy Fred Dog Whittingham, right? I think that their son, I mean, what's the word I'm looking for? He lives his life, right, in a way as a coach that I think his dad would be proud. So that toughness is what really set the tone for us. And to your point earlier, that's the kind of thing that you have to do as a Utah team, right? We're not going to maybe have the most speed. We obviously don't have the most money, but we'll punch you in the face, right? Figuratively speaking. And that the Coach Witt, it started at the top there. You got to be tough, dude. No excuses. Get it done.
You mentioned some points earlier, and it goes to show just how fragile things can be. We've seen plenty of programs when a legend retires, things don't go well. What has to happen? You mentioned the money and everything else, but will this culture continue? Do you feel confident that all that will continue? because the shoes to fill are just immense. And I don't think even Morgan knows that he's not going to be able to be Kyle. But how does this thing continue rolling the way it is right now, considering all the challenges you brought up?
Morgan Scalley has been trained by some of the greatest coaches of all time. Ron McBride, Urban Meyer, Kyle Whittingham. He had all three, right? He had Kyle as a GA. So he played for Kyle as a DC. Then he worked for him as a GA. This guy's ready to go. Not to mention his dad was a legend. Bud Scalley was a great player, man. Lawyer. This guy has always been able to do most of the time the right thing. He's always been positive as a coach, right? He handles things. He's very responsible. I'm a big fan of the guy. I love him. And I think that he's going to do fantastic. Again, I'm going to say this again. I don't care if you have Vince Lombardi in there, right? Joe Torre's not coaching the Salt Lake Bees to win the World Series. We need some money. And Scalley is so special, right? We may not need as much as we think, like everybody else. That's how good he is, right? I think we can beat teams still. As I say, we can make $1 out of 15 cents, right? I'd like to make $1 out of 80 cents, though, if you know what I'm saying. We got to move it up a little bit now.
No doubt.
Trevor Reilly, love having you on. Love the fire as always. And it's an interesting day. I love the idea of the guy. Somebody brought up his age. They're like, yeah, he's 66. I'm like, yeah, but he's kind of like a 50-year-old in terms of like the body age, I feel like. And,
that's right.
And on top of it, by the way, who gives a crap how old you are? Nowadays, get Pete Carroll. They'll run him through the ringer again, put him in the NFL at 72. Bill Belichick at 74 in the college ranks. Like, those guys look old. Well, Belichick more than Pete Carroll. Kyle Whittingham doesn't look old, but maybe his wife at some point goes, "You promised about the grandkids, right?" Remember that whole thing? Like, who knows what the deal is in the house? But we appreciate your insights, and thanks so much for joining us on short notice, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, great insight, Trevor. Thank you.
And I want to say one thing, all right?
Yep.
We lost a great one yesterday, Eddie White.
Oh yeah.
Horrible situation. Okay. A shout out to his father, who I know personally, his family. And we got to take care of that child now, okay? We got to help this kid out. This Utah Players Association, we're trying to reach everybody. We just started. We go live January 1st. But we're looking to get that 7th board seat with the local hustler. Utah Players Association, we want that 7th seat, man. We're looking for some ways to support this team. But shout out to Eddie White, man. I just want to make sure he's remembered. Everybody look him up, man. He's really, really sad about that.
No, thank you, Trevor, for
Appreciate
bringing
it,
that
Trevor.
up. Thank you. That's a
Trevor Reilly,
tough day.
One of the greats. We mentioned it, and I said, too, I know that this was already in the planning, and then when you have a tragedy like that hit with the Eddie White news, we reached out to Sly to say, hey, man, and he goes,
can do the show today.
I can't. He's not just an old teammate. He's a fellow Vegas guy. And
they're brothers.
It's tough. And so I think there are a lot of players going through that on top of the Kyle Whittingham news. There's a loss on both sides.
There's a lot of emotions,
yeah, it's crazy.
as you can tell from Trevor and Christian today. And we talked to Sly earlier today. It's a tough day for a lot of these Utah players, and we're thinking of them as that news came today as well with the passing of Eddie White.
You know, I love too that idea of just being like, hey, okay, now that I got if I'm on the air, get that money into the school now. It's like
he's not
get
wrong.
It going.
He's not wrong.
That's what I love it. I love it.
We saw the news earlier about the $500 million, and people are saying what their opinions they have about it. None of us know how it's going to work out. What I know is they had to do something. You can't just sit back and watch your rival have a deal come down with Kalani and his extension and all the NIL and billionaire supporters and a billionaire's pumping money into Texas Tech. If this program is going to continue winning at the rate that it's used to winning at, especially now with Kyle Whittingham stepping away, it's fragile, man. It's fragile. Somebody's got to step up. They got to figure some things out, or they're going to get left behind. And you cannot take what they've done over the last 20 years for granted. It can go away fast. I mean, look at some programs around the country. They're playing Nebraska in the Las Vegas Bowl. What do you think of Nebraska right now? That used to be the team in the country. When I was growing up, Nebraska was it. Nebraska went to Orange Bowls to try to win national championships, and they won 3 in a row in the 90s. That program was the standard. And now what are they? They're mid.
Yeah.
And they have been for 20 years.
That's crazy.
It can happen.
Yeah.
In order to keep this going, that's the new world. And DJ brought it up how Kyle knew it, and Kyle knows it. The teams with the most money win. That's how it works in 2025. Trevor's not wrong.
I'm going to tell another Kyle Whittingham story that was funny. I remember being at that table, and he was actually kind of glad. He was mad about the NIL stuff because we had no idea what we were getting into. Because we were like, we can actually talk to these guys, and the school can't bother us. Remember, that's like the whole thing is like the school can't say, don't talk to them or don't. They were their own people at that moment. At that moment that you start talking about business. And Whit was like, all right, well, looks like you guys got it all figured out with this money stuff. I'll talk to you guys later. Because it was after the interview. Yeah. And he was glad to avoid the rest of the chit-chat with the media. And then it was also, he just didn't want to be around these players talking about it. But so another thing was, I don't know if it's still the case, but the coaches at some point, I think the head coach, Kyle Whittingham, at some point, there was some really nice luxury car deal on top of, I mean, the Garfs are part of, so many things. I think there was, either way, somebody had told me later, like, oh yeah, he gets a lease on that Porsche every year. And he's a Porsche guy. I mean, he was for at least at this time. When he lived up in Cottonwood Heights, where he doesn't live anymore, I every once in a while would get onto the 215 around the same time that a matte silver 911 would get on the belt route. Okay. And the first time I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's him. The top was down, right? And I was like, and his shirt may have been off too. I don't know. No. The top's down. He's like 4 cars in front of me. I'm like, unmistakable. And other people are sitting there. Other people are sitting there, and they're like, they don't know who this dude is, But he's got his glasses on. I'm like, this is Kyle right here, because I'd seen him other places. And he gets off the line, and he's first up to go on the on-ramp and get on. And I was like, well, I'm not going to see that guy anymore. And I kind of like put my foot down a little bit so I could get there. And then suddenly I'm looking in the very far right lane on the 215 belt route. Dude going 52 miles an hour in a Porsche 911. It was Coach Kyle Whittingham. He was just enjoying going slow. And there was part of me, too, that went, that guy's probably gotten busted on this road before. And I'm guessing that he got let off, too. Seeing him on that Porsche with the top down was like kind of fun. I was like, hey, man, you do you.
Well, I can't. When I picture Kyle Whittingham, I picture him on a Harley.
I know, absolutely. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We have tons to go, and by that I mean like 2 more segments left. Great guest coming up. You know why? We had Alex Jensen on the books, the Utah basketball men's head coach, and we were like, oh, what do we do? Do we blow this up because it's Kyle Whittingham's stepping down day? I think Alex Jensen, number one, could tell us a little bit about this running Utes basketball team, but then on top of it, he can give some insight into the legacy that was Kyle Whittingham. So Alex Jensen, next, right here on the program, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing.
When TV and radio collide.
Love it.
Wow. This is what you get. You're listening to JJ and Alex.
Don't touch that dial.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everyone, welcome on in. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Kirry, Jeremiah Jensen. Thanks for being with us on the program, everybody. Of course, the big news today, University of Utah announcing that Kyle Whittingham is going to be stepping down as the head football coach at the University of Utah. It's a wild day for us. We were already going to have head coach of the Running Utes basketball program, Alex Jensen, on the show here with us. And it was like, well, and we were talking about it, and I was like, no, absolutely not. We have to have Alex Jensen on. You know why? He could talk a little bit about the legend that was and is Kyle Whittingham. And, Coach, I would assume that you could learn a thing or two from a guy who's been a legend at the school. Thoughts on Coach stepping down today?
You know what? I haven't talked to him, but you know what? I'm sure he didn't. It wasn't an easy decision, and I think in a way I'm happy for him. I mean, a lot of us coaches would have loved to have a fraction of what he's done in his career. So good for him.
Alex,
sad for the rest of us fans, but Morgan will be great too.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the program moves forward, and also looking back on what Coach accomplished is remarkable. You've had the great opportunity to rub shoulders with some of the most successful, greatest competitors in all of sport. And Kyle Whittingham, I'm sure for you, is one of those. What have you learned or what have you noticed as you've been around Kyle Whittingham, that some of those traits that make him great?
When my freshman year was in '94, and that was the year I think it was the first bowl game they had gone to in, I think, 2 or 3 decades. Kyle was on staff with his dad, with Coach McBride. And, the one thing that I think about Kyle, it's a tribute to him, I think, is being in one place as long as he had, right? Even with the head coaching changes. And I'm sure he's had more than one opportunity to leave. And you know, put it this way, we probably know about half of them.
Mm-hmm.
But no, to be in a, as long as he's had to have the success like that, especially in today's day, that doesn't happen very much. So I think it kind of says a lot for how Kyle feels about the university and his commitment to it.
Well, Coach, let's talk some hoops here. This is your first year, of course, and much anticipated. You're like, okay, yeah, I got a job that I got to do.
Here we go.
It just all dropped on us this afternoon, and I said,
hey, we're all taking
we
this.
Got to do it. We got to figure this out. And yeah, you have obviously a lot more insights than some people could into that type of a life. It's your first year, of course. Hey, I'm telling other people that. Obviously, you know that. Getting into it. And the walk up to the year and then getting on the court and actually having it go down. What's it been like through the first month and a half here of you guys playing some basketball games after you take over everything, you get the reins, and then these guys have to hit the court? What's it been like for this first month and a half here with your team?
You know, it's been interesting. I knew it was going to be that was going to take time, and that I personally, and with the rest of the group, there was a lot to learn. I knew, deciding to take the job and doing the job, I took my time, and I'm glad I did. And there's a way to do it, and I really have gone out of my way not to make any rush decisions. But no, it's actually I've learned a ton. As a staff, we learned a ton. It's pretty much a brand new team and a brand new staff, which is, not to keep going back to Kyle, but like continuity at every level, I think is underrated. And, and I'm not looking past the game tomorrow night at all, but I already know that, come that next spring and summer and fall, that we'll be better. We'll all be better off for it. So it's been fun. I think we've gotten better. I think, I don't think any of us realize the gauntlet that we're facing, as we approach the Big 12 and the beasts that are in our conference. But no, it's been fun. I've learned a lot, and I think our players and the rest of our staff have grown together.
Yeah, it's a tremendous challenge in the Big 12. The short time that we've been covering it, my goodness, what a league. I'm telling, again, something you know very well, and you're going to find out as you get into league play. But the process of being able to compete in a league like this, you talk about Kyle Whittingham, and, I mean, he's had great mentors. Every great coach has great mentors. What have you taken from the many mentors you've had and instilled into your program as you try to build your own culture and your own identity with this program that you love so much, because you're one of the all-time great players in this program?
Yeah, my coaching journey's been, I've been lucky. I've been around a lot of good people. It obviously started in college with Coach Majerus, and I tell you, like, there wasn't a better teacher in the game. And now, and being back at the University of Utah, a lot more memories are coming back. But I started with him, and I had great guys on the staff there with me, like Porter Mosier, who was at Oklahoma. I was with him in St. Louis for 4 years. I learned a ton from him. And then, Paul Biancardi, who works for ESPN, I learned a lot from him. And then I've been around some great coaches in my NBA days. Ty Corbin gave me my first opportunity. Then I spent, those 8 years with Quinn. And I think that was similar in a lot of ways, because it was kind of, I don't want to say rebuilding, but it was starting from scratch. We were able to build that, so I'm reminded of that a lot. And then, my last years with probably there with Jensen, I learned a lot about, leadership as a head coach. Well, I've been lucky. It's funny because I think
Coach, we got kind of broken up on this connection here. We're gonna have our producer call you right back. Well, no, maybe it's fixed now. Oh no, you know what?
Sorry, continue, Coach.
It just got fixed. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Where did I leave off at? You
had gone through the list of the NBA coaches you had learned a lot from, and how that transition to the college game is starting to go.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting because I think where the college game is now, it's kind of in an interesting place because I think that there's in the middle of change, and I think there's going to be a lot of change. I mean, I know that change doesn't happen fast with the NCAA, but so I'm reminded of my D-League days. I'm reminded of when I played in Europe. It's kind of like a hybrid with players getting paid now. So it's kind of there are aspects to all of that come into play.
You got an exciting one coming up on Saturday, tomorrow, 8 p.m. Mountain Time at the Delta Center, which is fun, taking on an SEC opponent. You got to be thrilled about this opportunity, and for fans to have a chance to come to Delta Center and watch it. What are your expectations about this game? How big of an opportunity is this for you and your team?
No, I think it's great. I think it's a great opportunity to play, in the Delta Center, and I think again, Mississippi State, well coached, been to the tournament the last 3 years, and I think it's a great game leading, one of the last few we have remaining before we start conference play. So I think, we've had a week off too because of finals week. So, I think it's everybody's anxious to play and not practice, but I think it'll be a really good opportunity for us to kind of gauge where we're at and, individually and collectively.
Your guys must be excited too. An SEC opponent at Delta Center, all those things kind of add up, and it gets you even more jacked up for it. And so, hopefully, your guys, I know they are. I know they're going to be excited about this one, and we're looking forward to it. Tomorrow, Mississippi State coming to Delta Center. It's going to be an 8 p.m. tip at Delta Center. Look, just get some tickets, grab the kids. Go to Delta Center. Let's get this thing going, man. The Utes are 7-3 on the year.
Yeah.
Let's keep this thing rolling here. Coach, we appreciate you joining us on the program today and being nice enough to wade through the Kyle Whittingham news as well as we go here. So, and good luck tomorrow night at Delta Center against Mississippi State.
Yeah, no, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate you.
Yeah, that guy, I think he's just going to be awesome. I think he's just, and it's already going, and you just have to. There's going to be some time, right? You just have to.
Oh, of course.
Got to grind
you're
it
building
out.
a program in the Big 12 in the NIL era. It's a slow burn.
Yeah.
And everybody understands that and knows that. But you're seeing some promising things so far. You've seen the play of Terrence Brown. They had a nice win earlier against Ole Miss.
Yeah.
So there are some moments and things you're seeing with the program that show you that they're in the right direction. Fans are going to have to be patient, and this is an opportunity to go see this team and support them. We talk about Utah and this team needing support, and this is a great opportunity for Utah fans to come out at Delta Center and watch a quality opponent. And I think Utah can beat this team. I really do.
All right, speaking of basketball, let's get you to the Utah Jazz coming up at the top of the hour. 5 o'clock is going to be your pregame. 6 o'clock tip against the Memphis Grizzlies. We'll come right back, give you a short preview of that, and get you into basketball coverage of the Utah Jazz. Stay here, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Wrapping up the hour with our picks for the best and worst moments on today's show. As JJ and Alex want to hear your best and worst of the day.
Basketball, gimme the ball because I'm gonna dunk it! Basketball, gimme the ball.
All right, Jazz basketball coming up here at the top of the hour. Alex Kirry, Jeremiah Jensen, JJ and Alex walking you up to that coverage of pregame of the Jazz versus the Memphis Grizzlies. In Memphis, you can nominate a youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week award. The way you do it is just submitting that nomination to KSLSports.com/contest. Listen every Thursday afternoon to our program, and we read those winners off, and we celebrate the efforts of those volunteers who make an impact in the community with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. All right, JJ, thoughts on this one as the Jazz hit the road for a minute, starting things out in Memphis, as it's the Grizzlies and Jazz, and these are two teams who need a little bit of a boost, don't they?
Yeah, I mean the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, if you're a Jazz fan and you're frustrated with the situation currently with the team mired in a rebuild, don't feel terribly bad. If you need a self-esteem boost, just watch and look at the Memphis Grizzlies. What hope does that franchise have? their superstar, the one they put all their chips in the middle of the table, is absolutely no longer a superstar anymore. And Ja Morant, who's lost a step, who has had attitude issues and other things, and it's just a mess with Memphis. That was a team that looked like they were going to be one of those teams that was contending for years to come. Remember, the Jazz played the Grizzlies in a first-round playoff series back in 2021, and you're looking at that team, it's like, oh my goodness, Jaren Jackson Jr. and Dylan Brooks and all these guys they have on that team. And now you look at them, and they're right there with the Jazz in the standings. So it'll be interesting tonight to watch the Jazz play. They had some time off, so I think the Jazz can go in there and win. I don't think the Grizzlies are very good, so it was one of those nights where the Jazz can go stealing on the road.
I'm like trying to think who Memphis is now. And, the Ja Morant era is...
Yeah, they have an identity crisis.
I mean, the Jaren Jackson Jr. going away is like probably, at that point, that's bigger than losing Ja Morant, considering how he's been playing.
Yeah.
So,
hey, real quick shout out.
Let's hear it.
174 points scored last night by the Salt Lake City Stars.
Holy
against the
cow.
Rip City Remix. 174.
What was the score, though? They didn't lose, did they?
They won.
Okay. I thought you were going to be... Well, they had 181, but yeah. All right, Utah Jazz basketball coming up on the SEG Audio Network and on this dial. So stay dialed in. Jazz and Grizzlies coming up next right here on 97.5 EKSL Sports.